Emma Young was just a teenager when she fell in love, got married, and had 2 children. The couple wasn't ready for the weight of children, and marriage down. Emma left and took the kids. Her ex-husband never forgave her. She tried to move on, built a new life with a man who adored her and raised her children like his own. It should have been a new beginning, but then, one quiet evening, Emma and her 2 children were found in a bloodbath inside their home. It looked like a personal attack, fueled by rage. Police immediately turned to the most obvious suspect, the angry ex-husband, but he wasn't the killer. When the truth came out, it chilled investigators to the bone. The real murderer? Someone no one expected. Someone whose motive ran deeper and darker than anyone could imagine. The police figured it out. They knew exactly who did it. But the evidence wasn't enough. So how do you stop a murderer when the law can't touch them? This is one of the most shocking true crime cases to ever come out of Sweden. A twisted tale of obsession, heartbreak, and a justice system pushed to its limits. Before we dive in, if you're still watching this video, just take a second to like the video and hit the subscribe button. It doesn't cost you anything, but it helps us a lot. Emma Young Stig was just a girl from Stockholm. Born in 1985, she was the youngest of 2 sisters in a modest, loving family. She wasn't after fame, fortune, or anything extraordinary, just a quiet life, a little happiness, and one day, a family of her own. At 19, Emma thought she found that happiness when she fell in love with a boy named Nicholas. They met in high school, young and hopeful, and Emma, barely out of her teens, got married. By the time they walked down the aisle, she was already pregnant. First came Max, their son. Then, a year and a half later, their daughter Saga. Emma and Nicholas were far too young for the responsibilities they were carrying. The constant noise, diapers, money troubles, sleepless nights, they weren't ready. The arguing started, over chores, over money, over nothing and over everything. It didn't take long before love turned into resentment and eventually separation. But divorce didn't end things, it only made them more complicated. The children stayed with Emma. She loved them deeply and wanted to give them a fresh start. So when she met someone new, a man named Torny Hellberg, she moved to a quiet town called Årjäng, about 150 kilometers from Stockholm. And she took Max and Saga with her. Nicholas was furious. He felt she had taken his kids away. What followed was a bitter, drawn-out custody battle. They went to court. There were threats. Emma even reported him to the police, but she didn't stop fighting for her chance at a better life. Torny was different, stable, kind. He accepted Max and Saga like they were his own. Emma stayed home to care for them while Torny worked. They planned to marry in the summer of 2008. Emma was finally building the future she'd once only dreamed of. But love can't protect you from what you don't see coming. It was just a normal Monday. Torny left for work early. Emma stayed home with the kids. That evening, she cooked dinner while chatting with her sister, Katarina, online. They were discussing gifts for their parents' upcoming anniversary. Around 6:30 p.m., Torny called to say he'd be home late. Emma said that was fine. She'd start dinner with the kids. At exactly 7:07 p.m., in the middle of typing a message to her sister, Emma suddenly went silent. She never hit send. Katarina waited, confused, watching the blinking typing dots. But the message never came. She called Emma's phone, no answer. Then she called Torny. He was on his way home and just pulling into the driveway. The front door was unlocked. That was strange. Inside, the house was a mess. Toys, furniture, clutter everywhere. At first, Torny thought the kids had made a mess while playing, until he saw the blood. His eyes scanned the room in panic. Then he saw her, little Saga, lying in a pool of blood on the floor. Her tiny body twisted, her face unrecognizable. Nearby was Max in the same horrifying state. Then Emma, her face bashed in, barely breathing, sprawled unnaturally in the hallway. It was too much to process. With shaking hands, Torny called emergency services. "I think they're all dead." But they weren't. Not yet. Emma groaned. Somehow, she was still alive. Paramedics rushed all 3 victims to the nearest hospital. The scene they left behind was pure chaos. Blood on the walls, floors, furniture. The rescue efforts had disturbed much of the evidence. Doctors immediately put Emma into a medically induced coma. Her injuries were catastrophic: open skull fractures, severe brain trauma, massive blood loss. Max and Saga were barely clinging to life. Even if they survived, they would likely never walk or breathe on their own again. Police launched a full investigation, but they were already racing against time because if Emma survived, she was the only person who could identify the attacker, and whoever did this might come back to finish the job. The first suspect was obvious: Torny. He wasn't the children's father. He wasn't married to Emma. Maybe there had been a fight, but Torny had a rock-solid alibi. He was caught on CCTV, seen leaving work, driving home, right up until the moment he walked into that bloody house. Colleagues confirmed his schedule. He was ruled out. Next, police turned to Nicholas, the ex-husband. He had motive. He had anger. He had once threatened Emma. But when they told him that Max and Saga were dead, he broke down, crying, devastated, begging for answers. He claimed he was away on business that day, 120 miles from Oryang. The alibi checked out. He didn't do it either. Then a neighbor came forward. She remembered seeing someone strange, short, thin, wearing a black hoodie, lurking around Emma's house around 5 p.m. that day. The person didn't speak, didn't knock, just watched. Security footage from a nearby store caught a glimpse of the figure, hooded, avoiding cameras. When police showed the footage to Torny, his face drained of color. That could be Christina Schurer, Torny's ex. She was 31, from Germany, intelligent, educated, well-traveled. But behind the polished image, something was off. Torny had met her in 2006 while vacationing in Greece. They had a brief fling. When he went back to Sweden, she followed, uninvited. She became obsessive. When he tried to end things, she flooded him with calls and messages. When that didn't work, she showed up at his door. One night, after being rejected again, she swallowed pills and claimed she couldn't live without him. She was hospitalized. Torny called her family, urged them to get her psychiatric help. She was admitted to a hospital. But the obsession didn't end. In 2007, Christina returned to Sweden. She claimed she'd given birth to Torny's son, but had given the child up for adoption. Torny was confused. The timelines didn't add up. He asked questions. Her answers changed every time. Then came the most chilling moment. In January 2008, Christina said the child was sick, that he needed to come to Germany, urgently. A man claiming to be the adoptive father called Torny. But when Torny, suspicious, started asking detailed questions, the man hung up. Emma, by his side, was convinced there was no child. It was all a manipulation. They were right. After identifying the hooded figure in the footage as Christina, police moved quickly. But she was gone, back to Germany. An international arrest warrant was issued, and Christina was picked up within days. She denied everything. But when she was extradited to Sweden, she repeatedly asked to see Torny. She was calm, smiling, waving in court like she was happy to be there. Then the evidence started pouring in. In her apartment, investigators found dozens of photos of Emma and her children stolen from social media, threatening captions written under their faces, Google searches, how to kill without leaving evidence, how to hide a weapon, how to cover up blood. A detailed layout of Emma's home notes about Torney's work schedule and Emma's daily routine. Among the chaotic crime scene, forensics isolated a bloody sneaker print. The tread matched a specific athletic shoe. That shoe model? Christina's roommate confirmed she owned it. One more detail, a hammer had gone missing from the roommate's toolkit. The murder weapon was never found. By the end of March, Emma slowly emerged from her coma. At first, she couldn't remember anything. She thought she'd been in a car crash. She kept asking, "Where are Max and Saga?" Doctors didn't know how to answer. Eventually, they told her, she broke. Each time they told her, she forgot again. Her brain simply refused to accept it, until they brought her back to the house. That's when the memories returned. The doorbell. The figure in black. A flash of pain. The desperate attempt to reach her children. The fall in the hallway. And one last thing, the attacker's face. It was Christina. The trial began in July 2008. Christina's behavior was chilling. She smiled in court, laughed during testimony, waved to the crowd. Even when shown photos of the children's mangled bodies, she didn't flinch. Psychiatrists declared her sane. This wasn't insanity. It was cruelty. Emma testified, and when she saw Christina in person, she fainted. When revived, she whispered, "That's the face. That's the last thing I saw." The jury didn't take long. Christina Schurer was found guilty of 2 counts of murder, with extreme cruelty and 1 count of attempted murder. She was sentenced to life in prison, with no possibility of parole. She was also ordered to pay 20,000 euros to Emma. There was never any child, just a jealous, obsessive ex who couldn't accept that the man she wanted had moved on. Emma's road to recovery was long and agonizing, but she wasn't alone. Torney stayed. He didn't walk away. In the summer of 2010, they married. They went on to have 2 more children, who know the story of their older brother and sister. Max and Saga's photos still hang in their home. They're not forgotten. They never will be.